Buongiorno, buonasera, benvenuti amici. Welcome, my friends. My name is Vincenzo, and welcome to my channel, Fountain Pen Therapy. My channel, what it's about? Well, it's about fountain pens, paper, and inks. That's what we do on this channel. That's what we review. That's what we enjoy. And that's what provides me and hopefully others with the fountain pen therapy that we all need to amuse and entertain us. Let's face it. It's a great hobby, and I'm glad to be part of it. And in that regard, what I have to offer for you today is another fountain pen review. I've mentioned it before that I think that this upscaling of Chinese pens that have occurred in the last several years, I believe, can be attributed, in somewhat anyway, to the success of one company that I think is probably the best one of them all, which is Penbbs. Penbbs, came out with a series of pens. I mean, I remember we couldn't keep up. Okay, and each model had different design, different materials being used. There were demos, different resins. Just absolutely fascinating. Great build quality, great value, very nice nibs. They had it all. And I think that the success and the quality of Penbbs, I think, can explain why other companies such as Asvine, Moonman Majon, and now Angdian have had their success. I think they've realized that they've got to put, the money where their mouth is, and the quality pens that have come up or have been put on the market lately, I think in part it probably is a great, as Penbbs to explain why this was done, because otherwise competition, Penbbs was a leader. The only unfortunate thing is that Penbbs hasn't really come up with anything new or substantial in several months, and until I discovered this pen, which is the 495, I thought they had completely stopped. And then I realized that this 495, I had not yet purchased it, nor was it part of my collection. It's just completely, I didn't notice it was even there. And when you got all these numbers, pens by numbers, you kind of lose track. So I apologize. And so this is a late review because I know this pen has come out for some time now, but it's not new for me. So I figured I'd give you my thoughts on this 495. So stay tuned, and we'll be right back. So here we are with the pen. First of all, just a very brief unboxing. Here is the typical Penbbs box sleeve, if you will, with the only thing I can recognize, the rest is in Chinese, I would imagine, is clearly we see the 495 and the brand name Penbbs. If we remove the sleeve, we have this typical standard cardboard box with a magnetic closing, and when you open that up, you will have some very brief instructions on how to fill the pen, both in what I'm assuming is Chinese and in English. So there you have it. That's that. And then the pen is well secured in this molded part in the foam, if you will, and with a plastic sleeve protecting the pen. And here's the pen. So we can put the box aside, and let's take a look at this demonstrator. That is the pen. Close look. Let's start from the top. First of all, I like this finial. It's a slightly flared finial, and it's a big knob, if you will. And I believe you can turn this and unscrew it and remove the clip, if I'm not mistaken. Then that kind of proceeds to the rest of the cap. The cap, you could see the inner lining, and you can definitely see that step in the inside or in the inner capping, which actually seals the pen. So you could see that the pen sits tightly there and seals, and it keeps it from drying. So that's excellent. And you can actually, with the demonstrator, you can actually see how it functions. We have the classic sword shape clip, which is very flexible and springy. In fact, so springy that I believe I just loosened it up or broke it. So be careful. There you have it. Just a ring with Penbbs and 495 inscribed on it. There you have it. And there's one additional ring here close to the knob that operates this piston filler, and you can see the piston filler. Now, that piston filler is a new designed piston filler. We used to have one, I believe it was in the 309, but it would get jammed. It was really messy, so I'm glad they've improved it. I personally like this red touch, at least on the demonstrator. It gives it just an additional flair. There must be some way that you could unscrew this, etc. I'm not going to go through it. I think there are other videos that show that. But there you have it. So very nice piston filler. When we open the pen, let's see how many turns. 1, 2 turns, or something less than 2. To reveal, there's several choices of nibs. I've always choose this RM, which is this rounded medium nib. You know my preferences. For those of you who've watched my videos before, I like thicker lines. I like broad, double broad stubs, italics. Not an architect, but the broader type nib. So medium is the choice to go, given that there are no broad nibs, which is unfortunate, or there may be. I shouldn't say that. I know there's a series of gold nibs and all kinds of nibs that Penbbs has come up with, except I just don't know where to buy them, with all kinds of shapes and decorative engravings and line widths, etc. But here again, I'm not going to refer them to you because I have no idea where you can even get them if you wanted to. That's it. And this removes by just unscrewing. You can unscrew this and remove to wash out the pen. You can even pull out, if you will, the nib and replace it. I'm not, as long as you replace it with the same feed. I'm not going to do that because the Penbbs sleeve or nib units have a tendency to be very fragile. And so I prefer not to play around with it, given that I'm going to keep this round medium nib in there, at least until after we've done the writing sample, and we'll take a look at to see how, if it survives my adjudication, as they say. Okay, so that does the that takes care of the pen in itself. One thing that bothers me is that I don't know how to get that nib to be aligned when you close it up, to be aligned to the clip. I'm sure there's a way, and there's probably a trick to get it done. And some of you that might know, you can perhaps share with the other viewers. I've tried various combinations, and I just can't get it to line up to the clip. And frankly, if I've got to go through loops to do it, that's something that I would have to say I don't like about the pen. But on the other hand, how else do you expect to get it done? So I guess we have to live with it. And given that it's a demonstrator, you see it. In other pens that are not, well, you don't see, right? So there you have it. So that's the nib, the pen, and we'll be right back with a size comparison. Yes, before we go to the size comparison, I did take a closer look at what I did When I attempted to demonstrate the springiness of this clip, I heard a little crack or a little pop there, and it was almost as if the clip ring here had kind of slipped out of its. There's a setting in there. There's a little bit of a groove, if you will, and almost popped out. And I've been trying to secure it ever since. And what I notice is that, notwithstanding the fact that, I tried to screw it in as best as I could, that finial is now a little bit bent, if you will, or there's an extra opening. Now, is it the clip that kind of bent on me and it's protruding, or is it the threading I've kind of lost there because of the movement in the clip? All to say is that I'm not happy with that. I think that should not happen, and in fact, it's never happened. And I just have the sense that this 495, the acrylic in this 495, just feels different, and it could just be me, and hopefully it is. I just when I compare it to the other pens, they feel much. The other pens feel thicker, feel more secure. Is it because they have a very heavy vacuum fill, for example, in this 355, as compared to much lighter designed piston filler? Perhaps. All to say is that I'm not happy with that, and so do be careful when you try to spring that clip. You may pop the top of it, and it may crack on you. So stay tuned, folks. Anyway, let's go back to my size comparison. Okay, so we're back with the size comparison. Here is the 495. You can compare it to this one, which is that's the magnetic filling mechanism pen, which is the year, I believe, 2020, 220 year of the rat version. And then we have my Penbbs 500, which is probably the pen that has the most girth, but you could see that it does rival, but it's a little bit thicker than the 495. This is the year 2021 year of the ox. The reason why I chose this pen, although it's probably the pen I hate the most, if you will, that I just don't like. I think I like all Penbbs pens except this one, but I did, a very similar flare. It's not as extensive, but the idea of putting a flare on the finial, it's similar to this pen. Then you have my favorite pen, which is the 456. I like it especially in this green demo color with the matte gold finish. And finally, my 355, which I would say is probably a very good resemblance to the has a very good resemblance to the 495. So there you have it. And here are the same pens, uncapped and unposted, and you could see that the 495 is very similar, almost identical to the 2020 year of the rat, a little slightly smaller than the 500, substantially smaller than the year of the ox pen, just because this one's a very long pen. It's very similar to my 456, and I would say just a few millimeters smaller than my 355. There you have it. By the way, just to show you that in most of these Penbbs pens, you see that I have replaced the nibs with stubs, in most of them anyway. So there you have it. Now here is the pen comparison, the size comparison posted. By the way, this pen does posts very nicely, if you will. A little long. I'm not a fan of posting pens. I don't find the need to. But those of you who do, it can be posted. And in comparison to the rest, I would say that the Year of the Rat and my 500 just don't post nicely. The rest do. And when you compare the sizes, it's comparable, if you will, to my 456 and my 355. But again, 355 sits a little bit at the top, and I'm not sure that it really posts deeply. It's not deep, so that explains why it sticks out a little bit. By the way, the posting on the 495 is a comfortable one, but also doesn't interfere with the piston knob, so you don't make any accidental spills like we've seen in some other pens. So there you have the size comparison. What we'll do next is I'll put up my measurements board and then proceed to the writing sample. Now, first things first, the ink I'll be using today is this new addition to my collection from Jacques Herbin, the Vert Atlantide. Now, what I just noticed is that I thought this was part of the 1670 collection, but as it turns out, it appears there may be a new series, which is this 350. So there you have it. In any event, it's a special edition ink, and I did order it along with 3 or 4 of them that I will be reviewing sometime soon. It has a little bit of a green gold, silverish kind of a shimmer, and usually shimmer inks from Jacques Herbin really perform just fine. So that will be the ink. And let me just show you a swatch. There you have the swatch. As you can see, it has a little bit of that gold shimmer, and it's a kind of a darkish green, if you will. Okay, so there you have it. 1670 is wrong. It should be 350. Okay, here we go. Now, as to the journal or the notebook that I'll be using, it'll be this trusty Tomoyo River notebook. I tried using another one in one of my other reviews, and it was a complete disaster. So I figured I'd go back to what I liked the most. Okay, so here we go. It's the Penbbs 495. It did hard start on me just at the beginning, but I'm not sure that if that was me or the pen. We'll see. And it's in the clear / demo model, if you will. The nib that I've chosen is the Penbbs RM for round medium steel number 6. The ink is the Jacques Herbin, and I put the 350 there. Vert Atlantide. Now, sorry about that. In terms of the nib, line variation, well, you can get some thickness there. As you can see, there's a little bit of springiness to it, and it is very wet. Okay. Now, one thing I should mention, I noticed that this ink has some shading in it. So you'll have some darker areas and some lighter areas. And sometimes you have a tendency to blame the nib for the lighter areas as if it's not consistent. But in this particular case, I think it's the ink and not the nib. The nib is, fairly nice and smooth. Just a hint of feedback. Really, and it's got some springiness to it, surprisingly enough. Very constant. I did have a couple of hard starts there, I noticed, but I think it's me. I don't think it's the nib. Fast writing. keeps up fairly well. Very, very well. Okay. So I think this nib is, verdict is very smooth, wet, and constant. Okay, good. So let's get to my rating. Now, what I've been noticing and even looking at other channels, rating a pen on 10 when, a lot of them become 10s and a lot of them are 9.2s. And I think I'm not doing anybody any favors by giving them, a number on 10. I prefer to look at what I like and what I dislike about the pen, or point out to you what what I like about it and what I don't like about it, as many reviewers say. I think that will give you a little more information. So in terms of what I like, well, the first thing that I like about it is, I'm going to mention right away, is this nib. This round medium nib, I think, was a great novelty that Penbbs brought into their nibs. And I think it really beats their fine and extra fine nibs. The second thing is the fact that the piston filler works. The new design, I think, first of all, it works nicely. And secondly, I like this red. Some people don't like it, but I think I like this red portion there. It adds some character to the pen. So that's what I like about it. In terms of, let's look at dislikes. Well, I don't like that finial, just because I think there is it might be problematic and prone to cracking or popping. So I don't like it. I have just, and again, it's just purely subjective, the feel of this pen. Maybe it's because it's too light. The resin itself, I'm just questioning whether the quality of the resin used in this particular pen is different from its predecessors. Now, when I touch my 355, I just have a different feeling. Now, it could be because it's heavier because of the vacuum fill, and this is a light piston filler. I don't know how to explain it. Sometimes it's just a feel. I mean, it's a very comfortable pen. And that's one of the fact that it posts is, I think, a pro. In terms of value, I don't like the value. I've seen Penbbs pens for a lot less. I'm going to put up the prices, but I believe I even saw $60 in AliExpress and $42 Canadian on Etsy. I think that's too much for this pen. I really do. It's not what it used to be in terms of value. I think you would get a lot more value in the past. Okay, so that, I think, sums it up pretty well. And with that, I will sign my review, and please enjoy your fountain pens. Subscribe, comment, greatly appreciated. I hope you've been informed a little more. Sorry about the late review on this 495, but hey, I just realized it existed. So there you have it. Thank you very much for joining me, and stay tuned to my next review. Thank you very much.